And welcome back to the castle, everyone. This is Nightsaber Z42, and I'm back with some more 8 Petals Argent with Monterey, the Halfling Barbarian. But first, a quick note. So it's been a little bit rough getting into this style of gameplay, for me specifically, because I'm basically having to look at two screens at the same time, one that has the actual adventure on it and one that has the character sheet. So sometimes things kind of get a little wonky and I forget a lot of stuff, particularly about my barbarian halfling, specifically that he is lucky, which means any natural ones that I actually roll, when it comes to attack rolls, saving throws, and things like that, I actually get to re-roll them once, which is something that I have not actually been doing so far. Another thing that really would have helped out, since we've been going back and forth between poison clouds and whatnot, we have something called Stout Resilience, which means we have advantage on saving throws against poison, and we also have resistance against poison damage. So Monterey would actually be in a lot better condition than he was at the beginning of the last episode. So these are things that I'm definitely going to try to remember. They are open in my Roll20 tab, so I will always have them fresh and open in case I need to review them. We haven't had anything that would have made him frightened, so we will need to remember that he is brave, though. So without further ado, let us get back into it. Previously, Monterey finds himself lost in an ever-ending twist of tunnels and water. He makes little headway, actually taking it upon himself to mark the areas where he's been and the direction he's heading. Will this halfling ever make it out of here? So we are actually in one of the beginning rooms of the mausoleum, where there's a bunch of alcoves and sepulchers. So we're actually going to investigate all 8 of these. So that means it'll take 1 minute to investigate all of these. So we're going to do a perception check for alcove number... Well, actually, we don't need to roll anything just yet. We do need to mark time, though. Let's see what room number 1 has. This 10 by 15 foot room is unfinished. It appears that workers began carving ledges along the walls, probably for the storage of skeletons like those found elsewhere in these catacombs. After searching the piles of rubble, you find a set of files, an old hammer, and some metal pins. These tools appear to be for disassembling and reassembling wrist restraints, a pile of which you find nearby. These restraints are unusable, but for a single rebuilt set of working manacles. Disturbingly, this area's workspace is well suited to resizing restraints to fit prisoners of various heights. Like little halflings, mayhaps? Could slavers have used these abandoned catacombs at some time in the past? ? So we've searched through this room, although we are going to take the hammer for sure. Maybe we can use that to bash something later down the line. I'm really hoping. I'm going to leave the manacles. Alright, so back in the hub area, let's go ahead and investigate room number 2. This 10 by 15 foot room is also unfinished. It appears that workers began carving ledges along the walls, probably for the storage of skeletons like those found elsewhere in these catacombs. A set of skeletons rest on the partly carved shelves. They sit in haphazard piles, not like the skeletons interred respectfully elsewhere in the catacombs. One of the skeletons clutches a pair of children's sandals, preserved by some alchemy you cannot discern. Make a perception check. We got a 9. Unfortunately, we do not find anything of use here. Alright, so we'll go back to the hub and investigate room number 3. This 10 by 15 foot room is the only fully finished room in the area. Its carved ledges cut smooth and the rubble cleared away. Someone seems to have used one of the shelves here as a desk. Under a layer of dust, you find 3 old ink pens and a set of ink vials, their contents dried out and worthless. A large piece of rubble sits beside the shelf like a chair, allowing someone to sit there while writing. Well, Monterey has no need for writing utensils, so we are going to go ahead and leave that. Well, let's go ahead and investigate room number 4. This 10 by 15 foot room is unfinished as all of the others, and workers began carving ledges along the walls, yada yada yada. Monterey's seen this a lot of times. In fact, he probably thinks this is one of the rooms that he's already been in, except there's something gleaming. You shift all the rubble in this room, but find nothing of importance except a single plaque engraved with the words, "Provided by a generous grant from the Durenbold Alliance." This copper plaque is worth 5 silver pieces. That's number 4 investigated. Let's do number 5. This 10 by 15 foot room is unfinished. It appears that workers began carving ledges along the walls. Atop some rubble rest the bones of a single skeleton in ragged clothes, the back of its skull crushed. One of its hands is missing, replaced with a prosthetic hook. Among its possessions are a metal-studded great club and a tin amulet of the watch. Emblazoned on this tiny shield emblem is the city crest of Waterdeep. The number 528256 appears on the back. We're definitely going to take that amulet. We're going to leave the great club. We have a much better weapon, but we're definitely going to make note of this number. 528256. Okay. You never know, it could be the key to a puzzle, one that Monterey definitely does not want to mess around with, especially with his low intelligence. So let's go ahead and investigate room number 6. This 10 by 15 foot room is unfinished. It appears that workers began carving ledges along the walls, probably for the storage of skeletons like those found elsewhere in these catacombs. This room contains a lot of rubble, as though it served as storage for the stone excavated in other parts of the catacombs. Let's make a perception check to filter out through more of the rubble. We get a 7. Wow, we're rolling pretty low this time around. So unfortunately, we do not find anything of use here. So let's go ahead and search room number 7 then. As you begin to shift the rubble in this room, you find a strange vine with fat pods that burst into flying shards the moment you reveal it. Make a dexterity 12 saving throw. We got a 16. On a success, you throw yourself backward in time to avoid the shrapnel. So it looks like there was a little bit of a trap there. Alright, which means that we can search the last alcove here, which is the alcove in the room. You approach the broad alcove in the southwest corner of the room. The fungal formations by the alcove seem to be growing on piles of thin, tile-like detritus, some flat and smooth, others rounded with jagged edges. A close inspection reveals these to be spongy fragments of eggshell. Within the alcove, where the fungus grows the thickest, you see a mound of eggs tended by a coiled serpent. As you watch, it lifts its head and unfurls its wings, a set of narrow membranes that stretch the length of its body on either side of it. The creature lunges from its perch, undulating through the air and opening its circular mouth in anticipation. Oh, looks like we're going to be fighting here. We are in combat with a flying serpent. It soars from its perch, seeking out the disturbance near its nest, eager to feed. So, unfortunately, we have a light source, so we don't get the surprise on this flying serpent. The flying serpent uses its tail spike to attach itself to you, allowing it to follow up with its lamprey-like attacks. If the spike misses you, the snake moves away with any remaining movement, preparing to dive in next round with another spike attack. So we begin a little bit of ways from the flying serpent. We're about 20 feet away. So Monterey is going to heft his great axe, and he's going to raise it and basically just rush it and try to cleave it. So let's see what we roll. We get a 20, a natural 20, against the serpent whose armor class is 12. So let's roll for damage. We get 12, which will actually cleft it in 2, killing it right then and there. Flying serpent is dead. Its lamprey-like mouth still puckers reflexively around sharp needle teeth, prompting you to kick the corpse away from you. Within the alcove, you find that the garden of fungi hides several well-picked skeletons, mostly those of small rodents and other snakes. However, one is a humanoid skeleton, upon which you find a valuable piece of jewelry, the serpent skull ring. This narrow bronze band includes serpentine shapes that hold a polished skull-shaped stone. We'll go ahead and pocket that, although since Monterey is not magically inclined, he's going to definitely not going to know what to do with it. That is all of the alcoves here. We've already investigated the camp. We can go to the northwest, and let me check real quick. We came in from the northeast, so that means we were traveling southwest. So the southwest will take us back into the room that we were just in. So it looks like we're going to go to the northwest here. So we're in an intersection of 4 directions, atop a cliff overlooking a wet passage area. To the northwest, rough-cut stairs lead downward. The tunnel descends to a point where the water is almost up to the ceiling. You recognize that passage as leading back to the deep catacombs exit. So we can continue going to the northwest. The northeast tunnel rises from the water to a set of rough-cut stairs. To the southwest is a level tunnel filled with waist-deep water. Behind you is a large room with 2 large central pillars. So we can either go to the south, to the northeast. Actually, we can only go down to the south. Yes, because we're on a high ledge, so we have to descend before we can really pick a spot. We are going to descend. Don't think we have any more rope. I think we've used our rope to actually do something before. Wouldn't that be just our luck if this was the exact same area with that rope and that we were just forgetting? Regardless, we're gonna make an athletics check. We got ourselves a 19. So we make it down safely. We're at the bottom of the actual area, which means we can actually choose northwest, northeast, southwest. We've gone to the south. We have not gone to the northwest, northeast, or the southwest. I think we're going to go to the southwest. We're just gonna kind of take things in a procedure here. This north-south passage bends to the northeast at its upper end. Brackish stagnant water fills this area to the height of your waist. And we've actually already been in this area because we've searched all the doors. So we're actually going to go back to the northeast. That should take us to the previous room. Yes, the intersection. So we've already gone there, so we can cross that off our list. So let's try the northeast and see. The tunnel widens into a rectangular room stretching east to west. We've also been inside of this area because there are these skeletons here and the planters, which we can't really do anything with. We approached this from the northeast. So if we go southwest, that should take us back out. So let's go southwest. Correct. All right. So the only area we haven't been to is the northwest. So let's go to the northwest. Find yourself in a winding north-south passage that extends over 100 feet in length. The water in this passage is 10 feet deep, leaving only about a foot of space between the surface and the ceiling. You can swim through this water or just bob along, pushing yourself up to the surface if you need to take a break. In the walls are 7 catacomb alcoves, each stacked to the ceiling with linen-wrapped skeletons. At the south end of the passage are 2 wider alcoves, each shaped for a horizontal sarcophagus cut from the stone itself. Unfortunately, we're going to be in darkness here. And unfortunately, we don't have any magical light source, so we can't investigate any of the alcoves here. That's a bummer. To the north end of this passage leads back to the catacombs entryway. The other end of the winding passage terminates towards the southeast. Rough-cut stairs rise through the water at that end as the tunnel angles upward. The ascent leads to an intersection of only waist-deep water. So unfortunately, we are going to have to proceed forward. So we're back to the intersection here. And we need to decide if we've gone through all of our options here. So let us go ahead and go to the south, because we have our rope that's already tied there. And that puts us back at the campsite. So to the southwest, if we travel along there, let's see what we get. Thick moss clings to the walls here, its slimy tendrils floating in the brackish water, waving with the ripples caused by your passing. The flooded way descends steeply down a submerged set of stairs. You feel your way forward until the foul water is over your head, completely filling the passage. Okay, so we're actually swimming through this water. We're gonna have to make a Constitution saving throw yet again to avoid disease. We get a 12, so we are able to stave off the sewer plague. And from the middle of this passage, its lowest point, you can see that steep stairs also rise out of the other end. Now we've been to the northeast. We have not been to the southwest. You are in a long corridor stretching east to west, filled with waist-high water. The eastern end wraps around a natural stone column, providing exits to the northeast and southeast. The northeastern passage descends into deeper water, while the southeast passage leads to a doorway. So we've actually been here before. This is the one with the 7 different alcoves. We've investigated all of those. So let us go to the west then. I don't believe we've been that direction. Ah, we have. This is the dead end with the weird alcove that's underwater. So we're going to have to go back the way we came. So let's go back to the east. We came in from the southwest, so going northeast would just take us back to the previous room. So southeast is going to be our next direction. There is a doorway there, so let's head that direction. You approach the iron door and see that it has an engraved pattern like a radiating sun. Its sturdy hinges are set into the stone of the wall. The door has a heavy lock with a tiny rusted keyhole. "Oh my gosh, I think I actually have the key for this," Monterey says, as he fumbles within his pack to pull out something, the sun key. So we're gonna bypass the door using the awesome sun key. Look at that. We actually have a relevant item. This east to west passage bends to the northwest at one end and the northeast at the other. The northwest passage descends some rough stairs into a flooded waist-deep pool where an iron door blocks the tunnel. The door bears the engraved pattern of a sun. That's where we just opened. The central area of this passage includes 5 sepulchre doors, 2 on the north side and 3 on the south. You see a symbol on each door naming some long-forgotten house or guild. We have not inspected any of these doors, so that's going to be the first thing we're going to do. We're going to spend 2 minutes inspecting each door for a total of 10 minutes, and that will actually allow us to make a perception check with advantage for each of these. Markings on the first door indicate that the sepulchre beyond is reserved for members of the Order of Street Laborers. You know this organization by its modern name, the Loyal Order of Street Laborers, a change that implies some sort of schism that took place since the sepulchre's construction. You inspect the door and find it unlocked. Within the 10 by 20 foot sepulchre, you find ledges cut into the stone walls, each loaded with the skeletons of the laborers interred here long ago. Let's make our advantage perception check. Wow, I actually rolled 2 20s, or actually I rolled 2 17s, which is brought up to a 20. A result of 10 or higher reveals a functional flail with a heavy worn handle. We also reveal a moldering purse with 2 silver pieces and 2 copper pieces. So we'll definitely take that, but we're not going to take the flail. Beyond the second door, we have... Writing on this door indicates that the sepulchre beyond is reserved for members of the Fellowship of Salters, Packers, and Joiners. Although technically locked, the thin latch presents no resistance to your forceful intrusion. You throw a shoulder against the door and hear the little latch crack immediately. With a few more solid blows, you are in. Within the 10 by 20 foot sepulchre, you find ledges cut into the stone walls, each loaded with the skeletons of the Waterdeepian poor who earned a meager living preserving and packing food for transport centuries ago. Small wooden bowls line the wall, each containing worthless trinkets belonging to the deceased. Let's make our perception check with advantage. We got a 12. We actually rolled a 4 and a 12. So, a result of 10 or higher reveals a moldering purse containing 1 silver piece and 6 copper pieces. Aren't we making the big bucks here? So we've gone through door number 2. Let's go through door number 3. Markings on this door indicate that the sepulchre beyond is reserved for members of the Cellarers Guild, probably the same organization that is now called the Cellarers and Plumbers Guild, a group that digs foundations under new construction and maintains the structural integrity of the city's sewer tunnels. The door is unlocked, but it requires a strong shove to push it open. Within the 10 by 20 foot sepulchre, you find ledges piled with rubble, no skeletons in sight. As you examine this refuse, you sense something is wrong, feeling the danger before you hear the piled rubble begin to fall. Make a dexterity saving throw. We rolled a 3. Ooh, that's not good. No, we did not, because I actually remembered we are lucky, and I rolled that natural 1, which is turned into a 3. I'm gonna go ahead and re-roll that to a 21 this time. If your result is 9 or higher, you dive out of the way in time as all the rubble in the room comes falling out into the hallway. The sepulchre is caving in. Well, that rather sucks. Alright, let's move on to door number 4, as Monterey kind of picks himself off the floor and wipes off all the dust from his, well, I guess I don't even know really what he's wearing. He's not really wearing much of anything. He's definitely not wearing any sort of shirt. Maybe he's like a Conan the Barbarian, just wearing that little brown loincloth. Markings on this door indicate that the sepulchre beyond is reserved for members of the Guild of the Chandlers and Lamplighters. The door appears unlocked, but upon closer inspection, you find that it has no locking mechanism at all. Within the 10 by 20 foot sepulchre, you find ledges cut into the stone walls, each loaded with the skeletons of the guild members interred here long ago. Many of them are small, reflecting the young age at which members of this guild end their careers. At the back of the room, you find a metal 10-foot pole. Oh my gosh, I am going to take that with me. I don't care what it looks like on our back, but we're taking that. We're taking the 10-foot pole. The type used to light an older style of street lamp, some of which still exist in the city's poor field ward. Despite searching the whole room, you've nothing else of interest, except for this 10-foot pole, which I'm bringing with me everywhere I go. It's my new best friend. Alright, let's search the last door. Markings on the door indicate that the sepulchre is reserved for members of the Friendly Order of Night Guards, a guild you have never heard of. The door appears modified. Its original construction did not include the second lock you find on it. However, in their aged condition, neither lock can withstand your repeated applications of force. Within the 10 by 20 foot sepulchre, you find ledges cut into the stone walls, each loaded with the skeletons of the members of this mysterious guild. At the back of the tiny room, a single skeleton sits on a carved chair, a morning star across its bony thighs, its head erect as though watching the door for intruders. We're gonna leave that morning star there. We have no need of it. So we've investigated all of the alcoves here, or all of the rooms. I believe the northwest is going to have our approach to the sun door. Yes, okay. So going northeast takes us back into that area. So we're actually going to remain in this room. We're going to remain in the room that we just investigated. So instead of going northwest, we're going to go to the northeast. You are in a T-shaped intersection. The main passageway runs from the southwest to a doorway in the northeast. A perpendicular passage leads off to the southeast. A skeleton curls in a fetal position in the center of the intersection. I don't believe we've actually ever been in this room. Or at least it does not look familiar to Monterey. So we have traveled, I believe, northeast to get here. So if we go to the southwest, it'll bring us back into the room that we've already been in. So we're actually going to search the skeleton here while we have the chance. You stoop to examine the skeletal remains in the intersection. You notice the garrote, a rusty wire coiled 4 times around the skeleton's neck, the end clutched in the skeleton's own bony fingers, like an improbable suicide. The remnants of tattered clothes indicate that this wasn't a person interred in these catacombs. It appears that a trespasser, like yourself, died here. The belt has a small sheathed knife, its blade rusted and useless. One of the pockets holds a sheet of vellum. It contains a carefully made map. Oh boy, just what we've always needed, a map of the area. Alright, so we now have access to the careful map. The question is, where are we and where do we go? So this map basically shows everywhere that we've been, all of the little passageways. To the north it says can't enter room. There's a spot for dangerous guardian. There's a little side room that says holding, a much bigger room to the west or to the east that says block stage, and in the towards the center, towards the east or towards the west, it says safe camping. That's definitely going to be something very, very useful for us. So let us go ahead and approach the door. You approach the iron door and see that it has an engraved star pattern on it. Its sturdy hinges are set into the stone of the wall. The door has a heavy lock with a tiny rusted keyhole visible on this side. Oh boy, I have this key too! And Monterey is gonna go fishing in his pack and going through all the junk that he's just now collected for the star key. We're gonna bypass this room using the star key. You are in a north-south corridor, the north end of which curves northeast and the south end of which curves southwest. This area has two doorways, one leading northwest and one at the passageway's southwest end. 4 sepulchre doors line the hall, 2 on either side. Each one bears a sigil of some kind, indicating that only members of that association are buried here. We're going to inspect some of this. We're going to take 2 minutes each to inspect all of these doors, starting with door number 1. Markings on this door indicate that the sepulchre beyond is reserved for members of the Cooper's Guild. An addendum in smaller text says that the Guild of Silversmiths and Guilders provided additional funding for the sepulchre's maintenance. Although locked, the thin latch snaps when you press on the door. Man, all these doors sure do have lousy locks. Within the 10 by 20 foot sepulchre, you find ledges cut into the stone walls, each loaded with the skeleton of Coopers. You know that the modern Guild of Coopers is a front for a complex citywide smuggling operation. This must not have been true centuries ago, when this guild needed a sepulchre in the house of the homeless, plus help from an allied guild to maintain it. An ancient chest sits in the back of the sepulchre with a heavy lock. An iron plaque on it reads, "His most holy tools," under which smaller letters say, "The industrious brothers and sisters of carpentry, cabinetry, puppetry, and toy making." The chest probably holds crafting tools. So let's make our perception check here with advantage. We got a 17 and a 16. A result of 14 or higher reveals a key amongst the bones. What kind of a key? Ah, okay. This key must be for the chest, so let's go ahead and investigate the chest. Within the chest, you find a carefully wrapped and preserved set of carpenter's tools. We really don't have a need for that, so we're just gonna leave that. Monterey is definitely disappointed by that one. Let's investigate door number 2. Markings on this door indicate that the sepulchre beyond is reserved for members of the Roofers Guild. Familiar as you are with the modern guilds of Waterdeep, you know that the city's roofers, carpenters, and plasterers now form a unified guild. Although this door has a locking mechanism, you find it unlatched when you test the door, proving Monterey's theory that there are pretty much no locks underneath here. Within the 10 by 20 foot sepulchre, you find ledges cut into the stone walls, each loaded with the skeletons of roofers who died too poor to afford burial in another location. Let's make our perception check with advantage. A 20 and a 22. A result of 12 or higher reveals a colorful set of enameled buttons, together with 1 silver piece. Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, money is money, as Monterey says. Let's go through door number 3. Markings on this door indicate that the sepulchre beyond is reserved for members of the League of Basket Makers and Wicker Workers. Well, try saying that one 3 times. The sepulchre's lock failed long ago, leaving the door slightly ajar. Within the 10 by 20 foot sepulchre, you find ledges cut into the stone walls, each loaded with the skeletons of basket makers of various ages. Amongst the bones, you find 43 old torches. It seems that burying a torch with each of the deceased was a tradition in this guild back when these catacombs were in use. These torches are old though, and they only last 30 minutes. That's unfortunate, so we're not going to take any of them. The final door. Markings on this door indicate that the sepulchre beyond is reserved for members of the most careful order of window cleaners and gutterers. You are unfamiliar with this guild, but its name seems self-explanatory. The lock on this door is no sturdier than the others like it in this whole entire mausoleum. Within the 10 by 20 foot sepulchre, you find ledges cut into the stone walls, each loaded with the skeletons of window and gutter cleaners. Let's make our perception check, of course. 14 and 17. A result of 14 or higher reveals a single smooth gemstone, an obsidian worth 10 gold pieces. Oh, Monterey's definitely going to happily pocket that beauty. Oh boy. I'm gonna be rich. So we travel to from the southeast, correct? So the door, well, there's another doorway. why don't we check that out real quick, just to make sure that it's not the door we just came in from. Ah, this is the Cloud Key room. So if we go to the northeast, that's going to take us to a door. This is a Cloud Key door, which we don't have the Cloud Key yet. So we're going to leave that alone for now. We can go to the northeast, but I think that's where we had just come in from. Actually, let's go ahead and travel. We'll actually take a look there. The north-south passage briefly widens to 20 feet in this location, where it intersects with another passage running southwest to northeast. The widened portion of the passage contains a set of dust-covered handcarts, their wheels locked in place by rust. A distant red glow twinkles far up the north passageway. The southern passageway must be a subtle uptrending grade. A thin stream of water flows from it into this intersection, then flows to the northeast, which also grades downward slightly. You see a doorway on the eastern wall of the southern passage, about 20 feet away from you. We can inspect the handcarts, which we're going to do. We can go north, northeast, south, and southwest. Now we came in from the northeast, so going southwest would take us back out. So we're gonna nix that one, at least for now. But I digress. Let's go ahead and inspect the handcarts. You take a minute to inspect the handcarts. Their size is just right for carrying bodies, an aid for those previously tasked with moving corpses down here centuries ago. The dust-covered carts are now useless, their wheels fused by rust. You find nothing else of interest or use here. Well, we wasted a minute on that, but that's okay. Eventually, if we ever go back to that poison cloud area, that'll dissipate. So we're back in the area. We can go north, northeast, or south. Let us go north. You are in a north-south passageway that has a short turn in it, as though going around something within the stone before continuing north in its original direction. At the turn, there is an archway on the western wall. You can see a large room beyond, but a mysterious force seems ready to prevent you from walking through the empty space. Red runes glow over the archway. Definitely, Monterey doesn't have any expertise with anything magical. I believe if he proceeds to go up to the north, something bad is going to happen. And he knows at least, he knows enough to turn back. So let's go to the northeast this time. You are in a three-way intersection. A short passage to the east leads into a square room. Another short passage to the north bends westward and ends abruptly at a doorway. A third passage angles to the southwest along a slight rise. Water trickles toward you down this incline, a thin stream that continues past you out the eastern passage. So we can go to the door. We can travel east or we can go southwest, which would take us to the previous room. We're either gonna go, well, let's inspect the door. We're gonna approach the west-facing doorway. The door here is wooden, unlike the many iron doors you have seen in these catacombs. However, this type of hardwood has many of the properties of iron, making it a very daunting barrier. The thick planks look old and weathered, and you can tell with a glance that this door has swollen tight in its door frame. Turning the handle or pushing against the door will avail you not. Despite the material's incredible resilience, you see that the lower corner of the door is missing, chipped or eaten away, leaving a hole the size of a melon. Well, let's take a look through the hole first. We don't want to go into an area where Monterey is going to get jacked up, so let's at least peek through the hole. The room beyond is about 30 feet deep and 20 feet wide. From your low angle, stacks of wood blocks your view of most of the room. These beams were to serve as supports for the excavation of this very catacomb before the construction ended abruptly. Close to the door, you see a moldering wooden rack of excavation tools. The rack is too far back to reach. That's unfortunate, but we actually do have tools. We have ourselves a hammer, and so we're going to spend some time going or picking away at it. So it's going to be 30 minutes. 30 minus our passive athletics score. And so our passive athletics score is going to be 11 plus our athletics modifier, which is 4, so it's 15. So it takes us 15 minutes to get through this area. This rectangular room is 30 feet long and 20 feet wide. The southern half of the room contains stacks of wood. These beams are the type that serve as supports for the excavation and construction of this very catacomb. They stand in uniform stacks as though workers will soon return to make use of them, but their heavy dust coating bellies that notion. As you are searching the room for anything of interest, checking behind stacks of timber and in dusty corners, you see a blur of movement from back toward the door. A short sword has just removed itself from the pegs that it rested upon above the entryway. As you watch in awe, the weapon drops towards you, swinging and spinning to slash at you. This creature moves towards you and attacks with its pointy end. It is relentless in its pursuit. We begin 10 feet from the flying short sword. Let us go ahead and roll for the initiative. Lucky for us, we do get initiative first. So Monterey, of course, is going to take his great axe, and just like all of the others before it, he is going to basically just try to cleft the thing in twine with a crit. A 24 crit. All right. Well, that's going to be 3 plus 8 is 11. So, ooh, that is actually not really good. And that's actually, oh, okay, I see. Yeah. So we rolled it twice. Yeah, for the 3, we actually rolled our minimum. So we rolled a 1 on a d12. So, yeah. The HP is 7. So the tiny sword actually just crumbles. Now defeated, the flying weapon becomes an inert short sword, which we have no need for, so we're going to leave that on the ground. Looking around the room, you see little of value here. The support beams might be valuable for construction, but they are far too heavy to haul out of here. However, the moldering wooden tool rack near the door contains dusty tools of the type suited for excavation. Additionally, a painted key rack beside the door draws your attention. Let us inspect the tools first. You examine the dusty tools in this rack. Each piece of equipment remains in serviceable condition despite its age. There's 2 shovels, 2 miner's picks, and 1 sledgehammer. Why don't we replace our hammer with a sledgehammer? I think that'll probably be better for us in the long run. And with that, we're also going to take one of the miner's picks, and we're also going to take one of the shovels in case we need to dig. So we've looted. Let's search the key rack. Hopefully we'll get some pretty nice keys. The small key rack has 3 brass hooks. One of the hooks has a key on it. When you brush away the dust, you find the key has a storm cloud pattern on it. We got the cloud key. Awesome. Oh my gosh, it is about time we got this key. This damn key. I've been searching for this damn key for like all of eternity. All right, we're gonna leave. There's nothing else to do here. So we're back at the 3-way intersection. We can go to the east, which is the only way we have not gone to yet. And before that, I'm going to reflect. Let's go to the east first, and then we'll double back and hopefully try to get to the cloud key room. So we're gonna go to the east. You are in an oddly shaped room, 20 foot square, or 20 feet square. One passageway leads to the west toward an intersection, and another angles northeast up some stairs to a doorway. Yet another doorway leads to the south. In the room's northwestern and southeastern corners, a series of rings protrude from the walls at waist height. From these rings hangs black iron bells, items with no obvious purpose or function. Oh boy, I really hope this isn't a puzzle about bells. I previously got passive scores a little bit wrong. It should be 8 plus your modifier, and if you're trained in it, it's your plus proficiency bonus. So I don't have a passive investigation score, so looks like we're gonna have to press on. You examine the room, your eyes drawn to the bells hanging waist high on the walls. Just as you notice that one of the rings is missing its bell, a circular pattern of light flares up from the floor. A moment later, masses of magical webs spray everywhere, their gooey fibers crossing horizontally about the room. Webs now thickly coat the entire area to a height of about 5 feet. As the webs settle into position, they pull gently at some of the bells to which their edges adhere. The ringing is probably audible to quite a distance, making you wonder if any creatures are within earshot of the sound. You are amidst thick, sticky webs that cover the floor in this 20-foot square room. There is a passageway to the west and another angling northeast up some stairs to a doorway. Another doorway leads to the south. However, navigating through this room is difficult because of the webs. Because of the intervening webs, you cannot inspect the bells you noticed when you first enter the room. We could burn. That seems like a very bad idea. We can go to the west, which would bring us back into the previous room. If we want to go to the north, east, or the south, it looks like there's webs passing us by. I'm not a big fan of... Actually, you know what? It's just webs. They're just gonna, burst into flame and then die out anyway. So what is really the harm in doing that? We're gonna burn the webs. With the liberal application of fire, you burn away the webs until they are gone. Once destroyed, the magical webs leave no sign that they ever existed in the area. Sweet. We can expect the bells, which I think we're going to do. What is the purpose of these bells? 23 bells hang at waist level in the northwest and southeast corners of the room. The last of the metal rings is missing its bell, which is nowhere in sight. You approach the rings to inspect them more closely. What first looked like black iron bell cups turns out to be mere shrouds. Each has a second bell inside with a long iron clapper hanging to about a foot below the shroud. The design of these bells seems formulated to interact with the magical web trap in this room. The webs hit the hanging clappers and the shrouds without striking the bells themselves, thus not muffling the bell's ring. The oddly made bells seem like too much trouble to make just to facilitate such a simple trap. You remember that the many rumors about Down Shadow, the mysterious multi-level tunnels beneath the city. Waterdevians are convinced that a mad wizard runs around creating complex traps and puzzles in the tunnels beneath them. Oh boy, that sounds pretty bad. So if we go west, that's going to take us back out, which is something that we'll do eventually. For now, we're going to go northeast. You ascend the stairs to the northeast, approaching a doorway. When you reach the top step, you see that the door hangs open in its tall archway. Beyond it, through a short passage, is a rectangular room about 50 by 15 feet in dimensions. The room appears entirely barren at first. Then, under a thick layer of dust, you detect a discolored pattern on the floor. With a sweeping gesture, you clear away the dust to reveal a complex set of sigils beneath. The runes glitter with arcane potential. Unfortunately, we are not adverse to Arcana, so we find little of interest in this room. So let us go back out. Okay, so let's go to the south area this time. You approach the doorway, finding that the iron-banded door fits poorly into its frame. A brassy plaque on the door warns that it leads to a blocked-off sewer access. The door's hinges are set into the stone of the wall, but they don't look sturdy. The door has a lock built into it. Unfortunately, we don't have a key for this door, although we do have a miner's pick, and we are going to use that to force open the door permanently. So we're going to add 10 minutes to our time. We're like at 148. That's loosely based, by the way, because I've been keeping track quite poorly. But, I do remember and I do go back and add things. So we go through the door. You are in a hallway that turns in a right angle, north to east. The northern part is 20 feet long and the eastern segment is 40 feet long. A thin stream trickles in from the doorway to the north, joining a shallow pool of standing water that covers the floor of this room. At the eastern end, a portcullis blocks the last 20 feet of the tunnel, beyond which you see a doorway. Rats move in and out of that end of the tunnel through a crack under the door. Some appear to have noticed you, stopping their movements and staring. By the northern door, one of a series of iron pegs holds the dusty remains of what was once a backpack made of thick, hard leather. The damp air hasn't been kind to it. Through tiny holes eroded into the leather, you can see a roll of vellum sheets that appear intact. Let's go ahead and look through the backpack and see what there is in it. When you try to open this ancient bag, it separates at the seam and falls in a shower of dust and leather bits. Among the detritus now on the wet floor, you see vellum sheets tied around a bottle. The topmost sheet has writing on it. You lift the roll, finding that water simply falls off the parchment. You have found a bottle of holy oil, 5 blank enduring spellbook pages, pristine despite the dust, and one more page filled with writing. Ooh, Look at that. More pages for us. We will take the holy oil. That could be useful, according to Monterey, and more pages filled with writing. We will examine that page.
I can no longer see the blood under their features. The truth is unknowable. They walk past my alley by the river, and I see deep winter in all their faces. The last few were but guesses, driven by my hunger. He commands me not to stop trying. I will get to him, but who will I be when it finally happens? I am deaf now to all the world. I hear nothing but his voice in my ears. In deafness, I cannot question those I hunt, nor can I find traces of their lineages, for the libraries are barred to one with clothes such as mine. Clothes such as they are, unchanged for all these years in his service, and flesh loose and hanging in waste, and the smell of the grave upon me. This is my final chance. The next time I return to the catacombs, it will be my grave for true. One more try, one more guess.
And of course, Monterey read that entire thing with an intelligence score of 8. You're welcome. Alright, there's nothing else here, so let's go back into the area. Let's approach the portcullis. The moment you step toward the portcullis, the rats all cease their chittering and stare at you. Each step makes them increasingly agitated until, in a screeching, mouth-foaming frenzy, they all race towards you as one. As they come, more of these slavering rats flood from the crack in the far door, streaming in your direction. The bars of the portcullis slow them not at all. A tide of rodents is about to wash over you. To be continued.